we're starting again.
Okay.
So here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody, to Wild Curiosity. We have another fun, kind of different episode today. I am going to introduce my very good friend, Scott Peluso. He's the guy that has all of the recommendations for any restaurant you could ever want to go to. He's been there and he knows what to get. The rock guy who loves rock hounding, climbing, painting, you name it. If there's rocks, he's there. He loves exploring spooky stuff. And my favorite part is he also likes arts and crafts. And anybody that is down to get crafty with me is dope in my book.
Oh, thank you. Blushing over here.
Welcome, Scott.
Thank you for having me, Mandolin. I appreciate it.
Welcome to Wild Curiosity.
Very excited to be here.
So last week we went to Korean barbecue together.
So good.
And we were talking about the podcast when we got back. And he brought up this spooky history of this sanatorium that is in Kentucky. And I was like, hey, would you want to tell that story on the podcast? I was like, don't tell me too much about it because I want you to tell me on the show. So that's what we're doing today. He's going to tell us a spooky story. Before we get into it, it's called
Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Yeah, and it's in
Louisville, Kentucky.
So before we jump into the sanatorium, I wanted to give just a little bit of some information on the area, about trails that are nearby, different outdoor recreation stuff. And I thought it was kind of funny to find out that adjacent to the sanatorium is Waverly Park, which spans 300 acres of woodlands and features a system of shared trails popular among hiking and mountain biking enthusiasts. They meander through serene forests around a small lake, and it's like there might be dead bodies in there. Who knows?
Spooky.
There's also the Jefferson Memorial Forest, and it's the largest urban forest in the United States. It offers extensive hiking opportunities. Trails like the Scotts Gap Loop provide challenging terrains and showcase the region's natural beauty. I know, I was like, that's so fitting. And then, as most people know about Mammoth Cave National Park, it's about 90 miles from Louisville. You can explore the world's longest known cave system, which I've always wanted to go to, dude.
I always got Mammoth Caves confused with California just because of Mammoth.
Oh, like or what are you talking about?
Carlsbad Caverns or something. And just there's Mammoth out in California. And so I'm always like, is that in California?
That's super cool about Kentucky. And it's like the longest cave system in the world. And yeah, so you can go to Mammoth Cave National Park and 60 miles of trails there. So who knew you could trek a lot in Kentucky?
So really quick, because you mentioned cave systems that people have probably gotten lost in. Sorry, just got back to Utah and Mount Timpanogos. That whole mountain's hollow and full of caves and caverns that have not been explored. Definitely something to check out.
Timpanogos?
Right
I like
outside
that.
Salt Lake City. It's crazy, just full of caves and caverns.
Caves are cool. I haven't been any. I actually did do a natural cave in Thailand with Jeff. And dude, it was crazy. There's this river in it and there was catfish that were gigantic. And you're just in this canoe. And there's all this sparkly shit everywhere. It's probably I don't know.
Is it dark?
It was pitch black and they take you through the kerosene lantern, this old lady.
That's
and it's
cool.
just a lantern and it's hot as F in there. And there's bats everywhere. It was crazy. And then other than that, I've only been in the ape caves, which is...
Never done it.
Oh yeah, it's a lava tube. So it's not as gross as a normal cave, but I bet Mammoth Cave is probably nasty, slimy.
It's on my list of places to go.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
That'd be a cool trip.
Yeah. Stalactites. So, do you want to talk about why this interested you? How you even found it?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. I've always liked spooky abandoned places. When I was 13, I watched this show. It was called The Celebrity Paranormal Project. And it had Gary Busey on it and a couple other random people. They would do these paranormal investigations and go into buildings. And this one episode, everyone was bailing. They would go into this structure and come out and be like, I'm off the show. I'm done with this. And I was so young, but I was like, this is cool. What is this place? And it was the Waverly Hills Sanatorium episode.
Oh, cool.
And ever since then, I've just been absolutely fascinated by this haunted monster of a building. It's just tucked away in the hills outside Louisville. And when I was younger, I wanted to fly out there and just go conduct my own, investigation or go do a tour. I don't really get into the EMF readings or anything. I just want to go there and just walk around and get, spooked.
I saw that they do a haunted house there every year.
Yeah, they do a challenge where you can spend the night. And I don't know, I didn't look into it enough. I don't know if you win money, but you can spend the night And
people try to F with you though? Like it's
no, they don't. This place, let's just say there are renowned ghost hunters and explorers that have come out and said, I've been doing this for 10 years. I don't really see a lot. There's some things you could relate to maybe being some sort of electromagnetic frequencies in certain places, but for the most part, haven't seen much. When I went to Waverly Hills, it was the real deal.
Okay.
And so
from what I saw, everyone spoke highly of it, like people that have been there.
Yeah.
Like ghost enthusiasts.
Does not disappoint.
Okay.
No. If you're afraid of a ghost, it might disappoint you quite a bit.
Yeah.
So this building was built on an area that was called Waverly Hill, and it was purchased by a guy named Major Thomas Hayes. And anyway, in 1883, the Hayes family home was far from any existing schools. Mr. Hayes decided to open up a local school for his daughters to attend, and a little one-room schoolhouse. Ended up calling the property Waverly Hill. The Board of Tuberculosis Hospital kept the name where they bought the land and opened the sanatorium once the onset of the White Plague had stricken many of the communities.
Is that what they call tuberculosis?
Yes.
I did not know that, but I've heard that before.
The White Plague.
Dude, every cool old building in America just had tuberculosis people in it. I swear to God. It was always like
tuberculosis. And you're not wrong, because there's so many tuberculosis cases in Louisville at the time because of all the wetlands along the Ohio River. They're perfect tuberculosis breeding grounds.
It's a swamp.
Yeah.
It likes it hot and muggy.
Hot and humid.
I actually don't even really know what tuberculosis is. Okay, so tuberculosis, TB, can kill people by destroying the lungs and other organs, making it difficult to breathe, and causing the body to waste away. TB can also cause infections of other parts of the body, such as brain, spine, and bones.
Sometimes there's cases where you don't have any kind of symptoms, and you have to go get checked and tested. But at the time, it kind of looked like a really bad flu that wouldn't go away, that people just started dropping from. But it was so contagious, they had to erect one of these sanatoriums to kind of house everyone in. So it's crazy because so much of the treatments that they used and tried to treat people that were all experimental treatments ultimately ended up killing so many of the patients.
So it was a sanatorium for people to go get better, but usually they never leave.
Yes.
And it was also for them to try to figure out a cure.
Yes. This place had a really dark history when it came to the treatment of it, because they didn't know what could stop it or prevent it. And at the time, they were reaching out in all kinds of different ways for some pretty weird treatments. So August 31st, 1912, all the tuberculosis patients from the city hospital were located in temporary quarters and tents on the grounds of Waverly Hills, pending the completion of this new hospital that was about to be built for advanced cases. Once the tuberculosis board took over and had purchased the school from the family at Waverly Hill, that's when the building started. So in December 1912, a hospital for advanced cases opened for the treatment of another 40 patients. And in 1914, a children's pavilion added another 50 beds, making the known capacity around 130 patients. The children's pavilion was not only for sick kids, but also for the children of tuberculosis patients who could not be cared for properly otherwise. The hospital was eventually constructed between March 1924 and October 1926 at the cost of only $1.1 million. In kind of relations to the size of like hospitals, if you think a hospital itself is 350,000 square feet, roughly, to 400,000 square feet. And this place was just shy of 200,000. So it's kind of cool or fascinating to know they built a half of a hospital for one disease.
Yeah.
When you think about all the diseases and things that are carried.
I mean, it was a huge thing. And like, it was just raging across the nation.
What ended up happening when this plague was ravaging America, like I said, they called it the White Plague or the White Death. It was super contagious. No cure existed. And in 1900, Louisville, Kentucky had the highest tuberculosis death rate in America.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I guess it would be more prevalent in Louisiana or the South, it's swampy there. But
yeah,
I guess Louisville got the brunt of it all. Things started to get dark once they housed all the people and this building had been completed. The treatments for tuberculosis were mostly experimental because there was no cure. So sometimes the treatments were as bad as the disease itself. Some of the experiments that were done were, completely barbaric to today's standards, but others are actually now a common practice. Patients' lungs were exposed to ultraviolet light to try to stop the spread of bacteria. This was done in sunrooms using artificial light in place of sunlight. or on the roof or open porches.
Like a tanning bed.
Yeah, basically figuring, I don't know, more vitamin D or something would help speed up the curing process or the healing process. So the old photographs that it'll show patients lounging around in chairs and taking in the fresh air will literally covered with snow.
Oh my God.
Other treatments were less pleasant and much bloodier. Sometimes balloons would be surgically implanted in the lungs and then filled with air to expand them.
Oh my God.
And
I don't even want to know how you do that.
Yeah.
That's gnarly.
Well, it usually ended in disaster. Basically, it had disastrous results. They also had an operation where muscles and ribs were removed from a patient's chest to allow the lungs to expand further and let in more oxygen. But that procedure was seen as a last resort, and many patients didn't survive it. It was awful.
Dang.
Another one that was pretty wacky was the hot and cold bath therapy, known as hydrotherapy, and it was used to treat a variety of conditions. It's not too far off from some treatments we use today. Just ice bath resets your system. As far as the back and forth, I don't know, but this seemed pretty extreme.
Especially when you're basically dying from a fever.
Yeah. And they would believe that the water would remove toxins.
Bloodletting? Did they do any of that? I feel like that was something they did back in the day all the time. It's like, get the blood out and you'll be better. But I feel like the 20s isn't... Well, that's where the barber pole came from.
What's the barber pole?
So the barber pole, outside of a barber that has like the blue and red, white candy stripe thing. So back in the day, the barber used to be kind of like a cure-all place that you would go for other treatments too. Like you would do bloodletting where they would slit your wrists, and the wraps, after they used the wraps on you, they'd wash them and then hang them out to dry, but they'd still be stained with blood. And so they would flap around the pole out front. And that is where the barber pole came from.
That's dark.
Yeah. I mean, the straight razors, just slit your wrist, get it out, just like leeches and all that.
Interesting. We did some weird stuff back in the day. It's crazy because, a lot of patients who survived the disease and the treatments, they left Waverly Hills through the front door, but many others left through what became known as the body chute.
Oh, God.
Yeah. It's an enclosed tunnel for the dead led from the hospital to the railroad tracks at the bottom of the hill. And it used a motorized cable system. The bodies were lowered in secret to the tunnel from various areas of the hospital. And
because they didn't want like other patients?
It would spare other patients from seeing the amount of dead bodies just getting rolled out right
because it was...
Yeah, it was bad. The tunnel itself, it wasn't actually a chute, even though it's considered
like a pulley system through it.
Yeah, it's at an angle. So you have steps on one side and then you have like smooth concrete down the other.
So you would like hook it too?
Yeah, you'd hook it and they would lower it down. And they used to use it for hospital equipment and stuff that was not like directly related to death and tuberculosis and hauling dead bodies. It just became where they put bodies and just kept sending the bodies down the chute. And when you investigate or go to that place, you can walk that body chute. You can go through it. And that
makes me claustrophobic and terrified thinking about that. That is so scary.
So they would lower them through so the patients wouldn't see how many were leaving the hospital as corpses. Their mental health, the doctors believe, was just important as their physical health. There's so many inaccurate reports of how many people died here. Some of it is as high as 120,000. Some of it is around 63,000.
How long was it in operation?
So it closed down, I want to say, in the 70s. So figure from the 1926 to the early 70s was its operational
Dude,
time.
How long was tuberculosis a thing? It wasn't until after World War II that a cure was discovered. The discovery of streptomycin in 1944 were key breakthroughs in the development for TB. We're so lucky that we don't have to worry about that. My great-grandpa, my Nana's dad, died when she was 4 from polio. Like, what the F?
No bueno. So, as I mentioned, there's so many inaccurate descriptions or numbers of how many people died here, but according to the actual death certificates that were filed, it actually only says approximately 6,000 people died here.
What the?
Yeah, dating back to the original hospital records. Well, far short of those numbers, it's still a tremendous number of deaths to have occurred in a single structure.
And I feel like all that kind of stuff, they've tried really hard to cover it all up. It's not like they're going to just offer up the
and be
correct.
like, here's the exact numbers.
They're like, we don't know. The body shoot was going all day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it makes me wonder if there's anybody who's still alive that
Probably
was in
not.
Waverly Hills.
But I'm sure there's probably some videos of people that were at one point.
Possibly.
Maybe. A lot of people died, though, at least 60,000. But the records state only 6.
Yeah, the official records say only 6, so 1/10 of the normal number. But I think I like to go with a higher number. It makes it more spooky.
Yeah. And also fucked up. Like, what did they do with everybody? Where'd the bodies go?
Oh, so that's funny you say that, because a group of the Waverly Hills staff would actually collect the bodies and take them off the hill to be cremated and or buried. I would imagine most of them with those kind of numbers were mostly cremated. I have some info on some spirit and some people that are confirmed.
It has a lot of stars on Google.
Dude, it's crazy.
People love going there.
Yeah. So people come from around the world.
I looked it up, and the Waverly Hills Sanatorium closed in June of 1961, and then it reopened in 1962 as Woodhaven Geriatric Center, which was a nursing home. And then they closed Woodhaven in 1982 due to patient mistreatment and violations.
Mm-hmm. People just went there to be awful.
Yeah, they got fucked up there.
Just bad omens from, building to building. Over time, that's kind of...
The mistreatment just got passed down.
Yeah. Yeah, and ball rolling. That's weird.
Yeah, and it said that streptomycin was the antibiotic that cured tuberculosis. So after that was developed, then they didn't need these sanatoriums anymore. So became an epic looking
1926 to
old folks home.
1961.
Yeah.
Finally. It sounds like by 2001, the building had been nearly destroyed by time the elements and the vandals who came there looking for a thrill. Waverly Hills had become the local haunted house, and it became a magnet for the homeless looking for shelter for teenagers who broke in looking for ghosts. The hospital soon gained reputation for being haunted, and stories began to circulate of residents like the little girl who was seen running up and down the 3rd floor solarium, or the little boy who was spotted with a leather ball, the hearse that appeared in the back of the building dropping off coffins.
Oh.
Yeah. Could you imagine seeing a car that didn't exist? Just a full ghost car while you're inside that building, and it's a hearse dropping off coffins.
Does that mean the car had a soul? That's wild.
It's one of the things that people have claimed to see. And there's so much stuff that people claim to experience and see while they're visiting this place. Up until the early 2000s, you could sneak on the premises and do your own investigations. And now it's heavily guarded. They make a lot of money off of it, actually. And this place, bad things outside of ghosts, people were murdered in there. Unfortunately, acts of crime being committed in an abandoned building, not necessarily amongst the spooky hauntings, but it probably led to more of just the dark stories revolving around this place. And so other things that people have claimed to see is a woman with bleeding wrists crying for help. Visitors told of slamming doors, lights in the windows as if power was still running through the building.
That scares me.
Yeah, strange sounds and eerie footsteps.
Seeing stuff in a window is the ultimate scary thing to me, or a face.
A lot of security guards have seen that. They would actually see TVs lit up in there. To them, some of it didn't even seem like it was a ghost, another illegal trespasser on the property. And it turned out to be completely empty. There was no one up there, and they had sworn they'd seen computers or, some sort of screen on the building, and apparitions of people standing up in the window as well. Other legends, pretty creepy. It's a man in a white coat walking in the kitchen, and the smell of cooking food that sometimes wafted through the rooms. The kitchen was a disaster. It's a ruin of broken windows, fallen plaster, and broken tables and chairs, and puddles of water and debris that resulted from a leaking roof. The cafeteria hadn't fared much better. A number of people had reported footsteps in the room, a door swinging shut under its own power, the smell of fresh baked bread in the air. Sounds like the whole cafeteria was just
fresh baked bread.
And that's just the icing on the cake. Some of the most controversial legend of Waverly Hills was connected to the 5th floor of the building. This floor of the old hospital consists of 2 nursing stations, a pantry, a linen room, medicine room, and 2 medium-sized rooms on both sides of the 2 nurses' stations. One of these rooms, room 502, is the subject for many rumors and legends. And just about every curiosity seeker that's broken into Waverly Hills over the years wanted to see it. And this was a place that if you were going to experience an entity or a ghost, this is where it was going to happen. According to the stories, people have seen shapes and heard disembodied voices. If the legends are to be believed, people have even jumped to their deaths while experiencing some of this.
Oh, dude.
Yes, there are a lot of legends about what went on in this part of the hospital, but perhaps the biggest misconception was that this floor was used to house the mentally ill patients with tuberculosis. But this wasn't the case. The patients, they weren't insane. They weren't confined to their rooms. They were free to move about, just like patients on all the other floors of the hospital. This floor, thanks to its design, allowed patients to still benefit from the fresh air, the sunshine, and that sunshine was believed to cure a lot of the symptoms going hand in hand with your disease. It was centered right in the middle of the hospital and the 2 wards. It was glassed on all sides and opened out into a patio type roof. Yeah. So this is where it gets dark. According to the stories, a nurse was found dead in room 502 in 1928. She had committed suicide by hanging herself from the light fixture.
At work?
Yes. She was 29 years old at the time of her death, unmarried and pregnant. Her depression over the situation led her to take her own life. It's unknown how long she may have been hanging in this room before a body was discovered.
What?
Yes.
Because there was no patient in there, so...
Yes, but it says that her depression over the situation had led her to do this based on her pregnancy and being unmarried. But this would not be the only tragedy to occur within room 502 or be connected to it.
Oh, no.
Yes.
There's an extra haunted room inside of the entire haunted place?
It's darkness on darkness. So another nurse in 1932, 5 years later, she worked in the same room and jumped from the roof, plunged to her death.
What?
Yes. No one knows why she would have done this, but a lot of people speculate she was actually pushed over the edge and that it may be tied to the nurse that quote unquote hung herself 5 years earlier. And there are no records to indicate, but rumors persist. There are also conflicting accounts as to how the woman managed to hang herself. Some say that she did it from a light fixture. Others say from a pipe over the door, and some say from the rafters. There are no rafters. The pipe over the door was part of a sprinkler system installed in 1972, and the light fixture is hung on a light decorative chain that would not hold the weight of a person. There's no actual documentation of either death, although some claim the stories are verified by a former staff member. His name's John Thornberry.
Oh.
He died in 2006, but according to the obituary, he was born in 1922, which would have made him 6 and 10 years old at the time of the alleged deaths that were connected to room 502. This makes verification more than a little problematic. It's hard to say, but it seems likely that something occurred in that room to cause a legend to take root in the first place. So what might have been, no one knows. The story of room 502 may have been loosely based on some forgotten facts, but the truth remains buried under all the speculation and rumor. The plot definitely thickens with the nurse hanging herself and the other one committing suicide by jumping to her death. Visitors have reported seeing themselves or people they know performing deeds much against their nature.
What?
Like those who are known to be pet lovers viciously harming a cat right in front of themselves, seeing themselves doing that. Seeing spirits, in addition to these identifiable spirits, countless shadow figures lurk amongst the 5 floors of Waverly Hills. And the most disturbing is an entity known as Creeper or Rolling Black.
Oh, God.
Yes. The creeper does not seem to be human, but rather it's a large shadow that has been spotted climbing the walls and the ceiling of the 4th floor. Rumor has it when you look down a hallway and you can see the end of the hallway, it just becomes engulfed in blackness and gets closer and closer to you. Absolute pitch. So another terrifying entity visitors are rumored to encounter at Waverly Hills is doppelgangers, kind of like seeing themselves doing things against their nature. Or
like your evil twin.
Yeah. These entities look precisely like their victim. Imagine seeing someone who looks just like you in the dark. decrepit hallways of Waverly Hills.
Dude, I'm picturing like weird crawling on like contorted limbs, but it's like yourself.
Yeah, that would terrify me. And there's actually an old superstition that people have been known to die after seeing their doppelganger, which makes witnessing one at the hospital even more traumatic.
Dude.
Waverly Hills is like full of sounds of the past, auditory hauntings, including screams and moans, sounds of doctors performing surgeries, relentless coughing, children's laughter.
Yeah, tuberculosis, bro.
Yeah, can you imagine just hearing ghosts? Or you're just trying to ghost hunt. You're like, shut up. Who is that? So children's laughter has also been heard. A chilling reminder of the patients who also perished there. Yeah. Witnesses also felt spirits holding their hands while walking down the hallway. Others have felt bodily pain as if experiencing
that's what would scare me. I'm like, hold my hand and bake me bread, but I don't want to like feel any of your symptoms or not be able to breathe, dude. That would be like the ultimate.
Yeah. A wide range of hauntings have been reported at Waverly Hills Sanatorium, shocking even the most seasoned paranormal investigators. For example, people have encountered the ghost of a doctor in a white lab coat entering the 4th floor operating room. Other witnesses have seen a ghost in the abandoned kitchen and smelled baking bread, like I mentioned. On the 5th floor, visitors have encountered the full body apparition of a woman running down the corridor, the same one with her wrists cut.
Dude.
And screaming at the top of her lungs.
Okay, up the 5th floor.
It's the most. That's where you go for the good stuff.
I don't want to go to that floor.
And it gets crazier.
I want to go to the cafeteria.
Faces appear in the windows of empty rooms. And and during the years at Waverly Hills, it stood abandoned. 2 men reportedly died on the property. One was said to be murdered by his drug dealers, while another fell down an elevator shaft with his dog while exploring. Since then, though, apparitions of both men and the dog have been seen on the property. The owner, Tina Mattingly, even reported seeing the ghost man and his dog while locking up after a tour on multiple occasions.
Fuck.
This fascinates me. There's a few specific stories of teams of investigators that I kind of looked into. I was combing articles and being like, I want to know specific, I want to know what happened that was so significant for certain teams. And there's a few teams that said this was the most terrifying experience and here's what happened to us. So there was a team named Amy and Adam, and they returned to investigate Waverly Hills for finding kindred spirits. The pair of ghost hunters researched the haunting of a seemingly malevolent entity that lived on the 4th floor. Through their research, Amy and Adam decided that the spirit was a former patient named John Mitchell.
Whoa, that's like very specific.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, John Mitchell's wife had been murdered by a man that she was having an affair with while John was at Waverly Hills. This is what he communicated to them.
Oh my God.
Unable to care for his children, they became wards of the state. As a result of the physical and emotional pain he endured, John's spirit haunted the 4th floor decades after his death. Allegedly. Amy and Adam captured John's shape on their SLS camera and communicated with him. Although John's spirit was initially unhappy with their presence, Amy and Adam seemed to give his spirit some sense of closure, it seemed.
What?
Yeah. Maybe they just brought him closure, It sounds like tormented souls were either murdered or died in ways that they had unresolved issues on this earth. Sounds like they become trapped there until those issues are either resolved or...
Hopefully he haunted her too.
Yeah, hopefully. Man, that's not very nice of her.
Dang.
So perhaps the best known ghost residing at Waverly Hills is that of a boy named Timmy O'Shea. He lived in the children's pavilion with his parents, while his parents were being treated for stage 3 tuberculosis.
Oh.
So he was not one of the infected kids.
Oh, no.
And so Timmy would often play with his ball with other kids on the roof in the sanatorium. And unfortunately, one day, Timmy fell off the roof and died.
What?
Yep. The problem is a police investigation determined it was by accident, but others rumored that he had been pushed by a man standing near him at the time of the fall. Over the years, people have brought balls for Timmy to play with.
No.
Yep.
Oh my God. That's creepy.
In certain instances, these balls appear to move on their own and roll back to the person who threw them, as if Timmy continues to play with guests. So this is one that I do remember from when I was about 13 watching that show. And, it could have been staged. I'm sure it was staged just because I was watching TV. but it still was so creepy because part of the mission was they had to go in this building by themselves with a camera looking at them.
Oh,
and
God.
then they tell them the
Blair
story
Witch.
of Timmy. Yeah. And they would make them go to the roof or the area that happened. They made them go to room 502 and stand in the doorway and try to communicate with things. But what ended up happening was they were given a ball to roll and say stuff. And it didn't happen to all of them. But there was one girl, when the ball rolled back, she sprinted down the stairs out. And I remember that episode, watching her take her stuff off and say, I'm done with this show. And then have everyone have to have like an off camera chat with her. And other people were like, I'm done too, though. And I'm like, this. And it was the only episode that people were doing that in. So I was kind of like, I mean,
dude, I want to know what the celebrities were. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So it's kind
we'll have to look it up. Maybe it's on Amazon Prime.
I hope so. I want to Google if
I want to see Gary Busey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You like buttered sausage. You like buttered sausage. Such a goofball. So anyway, yeah, this is a story. The Timmy story is something I definitely remember. And I mean, I could only imagine going there in the middle of the night, rolling a ball and have it coming back to
No, I would not go there in the night ever.
Yeah. So anyway, I found an article about a psychic medium named Rhonda who had multiple encounters with a disembodied soul in room 502. Rhonda.
We love you, Rhonda.
Yeah. Good old Rhonda. That was my babysitter's name when I was a kid.
No way. That was my babysitter's name.
Whoa.
Yeah. I hated her.
That's funny.
Yeah.
This article I found about Rhonda having encounters with a disembodied soul in room 502 named Mary Hillenberg.
Oh.
Mary Hillenberg was the nurse found hanging in the doorway of the room.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wait, so she was able to figure out what her name was and stuff?
Yes. This is where the facts take a turn from the original, well, we don't really know if it happened, but it stemmed from some sort of truth. Then here's maybe what actually happened. And you could say that's not viable evidence, but these mediums don't have a reason to lie, you know? And they're just like, I want to go here and find this stuff.
Yeah.
And so this isn't the only story that she is told. This is a story that other people have kind of verified as a rumor and said, the soul told you this? Because this is the rumor that everyone believes really happened, revolving around the incident of the both nurses that passed. Mary kept showing Rhonda a much more complicated scenario than a simple suicide by hanging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, something more sinister.
Oh, deeply sinister. And it gets pretty dark. Rhonda kept seeing and hearing the screech of a chair as it was kicked out of the room underneath Mary the night died by hanging. The big problem was she didn't kill herself. She was helped up that rope by 4 men, all attached to the hospital at the time, all staff. Mary Hillenberg didn't kill herself in 1928 due to the shame of an unwed pregnancy. She was murdered. 4 men were involved in Mary's murder. The arrogant young doctor who got her pregnant, and quite possibly the other one, a hospital orderly, and 2 members of the Waverly Hills Board of Trustees. Murder wasn't their first choice. There's been a long rumor that a doctor botched an attempted abortion on Mary and then hung her to cover up his mess. So despite her blood-soaked body and all the other evidence that does not indicate a hanging, apparently she was soaked in blood when she was hanging from the waist down from a botched.
Okay.
It's because they performed an unsuccessful abortion. So according to Rhonda, what she saw was the young doctor who knocked her up in the first place. He was the same man who botched the abortion. The abortion gone wrong happened in the OR on the 4th floor. The one Rhonda and her teammate had spent an hour in earlier in the evening, where Zach from Ghost Adventures got a solid EVP of a surgeon telling them and his crew to get back. Mary's clothing was soaked with blood from the waist down when she was found hanging in room 502. The staff nurses who tended to her body after she was cut down knew what they were seeing. And I think that's why the rumor of the botched abortion has persisted for so many years. But you don't really know.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's a thing back then. You just do, like, there's so much heinous shit that went on that what people will never know about because there's never record.
So from what Rhonda saw, it was no rumor. Based on the amount of blood, Mary might have bled out anyway. But her faithless lover and his accomplices did not want a word of a botched abortion to get out. unfortunately. So these 4 men essentially acted as a star chamber, sentencing poor Mary to death and ensuing that she wouldn't have the opportunity to tell what had been done to her.
Bro code.
Yeah, bro code. It's a weird code, man.
Yes.
Weird, but I respect it, I guess. No, I don't respect that. She didn't enter that OR as a willing patient or participant in getting rid of an unwanted pregnancy. Murder might well explain why Mary's ghost continues to haunt room 502. Murder victims that Rhonda has talked to as a medium are always furious at having been killed. 82 years is a long time to be earthbound with consuming rage and grief.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Dude, Rhonda, what an all-star.
Yeah.
I bet that's scary because they say they can like feel what people went through. I feel like that's kind of heroic to go to places that they know are going to be really fucked up.
Oh, it definitely is.
I don't know if I would use my power for that. Like it'd be, I don't know.
It would definitely take the test of someone, or you'd have to have something, and I don't have that to.
Dude, I love Long Island Medium. I believe in her.
Yeah.
Teresa Caputo.
I don't even know who that is.
Whoa, you don't? Mm-mm. She has like gigantic blonde hair. She's from Long Island.
Cool name, Caputo.
Yeah, Teresa Caputo, and she speaks to dead people, and like she'll just be like in a sub shop.
Like, wait,
in line, and she's like, someone wants to talk to you. Like, someone's using me to talk to you. Did you just lose a sister? And these people just like strangers just start like crying.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I've never seen a ghost, dude. I have seen one time we saw something out in the woods that had like blue shining eyes, but I think it was just a fisher or whatever, like a weasel thing. But we saw it at night and it fucking freaked us out. Like in Idaho, dude, it was so scary. But other than that, I've never had like a real ghost encounter. I've just never experienced that. And so it's hard for me to know, like, is stuff real? Or like, am I just not in tune enough?
Yeah,
I hate not being a chosen one.
So I don't know if I'm a chosen one or if it just, you have to be in the right place. That's why I want to go to Waverly. But the other place that I've encountered something was an experience we had in New Orleans. The experience in New Orleans was the weirdest. I'll quickly touch on that. You would hear people arguing in the hallway of this building, and we lived in it, and it was old slave quarters in the back. It was called the Carriage House. You could hear people arguing in it, but it was like 2 parents trying to argue outside of a door that their child is sleeping in. So they're kind of shushing each other as they're talking, like, you stop it. And you could hear them clearly arguing, but it was a very muffled, quiet conversation. And you would hear it like it was in the hallway, and you'd open the door and there was nothing there. And that got me every time. And yeah, that was spooky.
Experiencing some stuff.
Yeah, I think if I go to Waverly Hills, maybe something will happen. But I also kind of think I'm like you, not really the chosen one to experience stuff.
I don't know if I could handle it.
Yeah, I don't know if I could.
I would be scared all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely the place to go if experiencing a ghost is on your list of things to do and you've been frustrated that you haven't. You can contact the Waverly Hills Sanatorium page. And you can do a tour by yourself, a guided tour. You can do a tour with 10 of your friends.
They literally make money off of it being haunted. Like, that's how haunted it is.
You can rent the place out for the whole night for $1,000. So, in conclusion, there's so many paranormal hunters that have never seen anything in their travels, but says in their expeditions to Waverly Hills that there is no denying what they saw. This is something that gets me so excited, and I really, really want to go check it out. That's the meat and potatoes of the place.
Oh, wait, you said they were cremated.
Yeah, all the people were cremated. I do believe you'll have to look this up. I didn't see, but it said they got buried. So maybe there is a burial on the property.
Ashtray
or unfortunately, maybe a mass grave or something.
I've seen it where like they just put number markers in like this mass field. Oh, they have that here in Washington for Western State. And it's just like numbers.
If you have any stories on Western State, they're not similar, but I have a story of hearing people, apparently they would walk the grounds at night when the old Western State was still intact.
The one that they completely knocked down.
Yeah. People would say that whether they were alive or dead, that old patients of the place that had lived in the original or the still standing Western State would just roam the grounds of the other one just because they had no lives, but they weren't necessarily being committed. We had a creepy story. I'm not sure if we have time, but I'll tell it. It's creepy. So, okay, we're Westerns. We were hiking back there, and it was the thing we would do in school. And we'd go back there and just look for ghosts. Me and my friends went there early. We had another group of friends coming, and there was that boiler room. And we brought a chainsaw went into the boiler room in the back.
Oh my God.
And, you're walking up to it. The boiler room it's accessed from like ground level in these windows. You climb down in these windows that are just dark windows. So we could see our friends walking up to the windows, and we're kind of tucked away in this little basement. And as they get real close, we fire up the chainsaw in there. And it was like a movie. Everyone scattered and ran. It was so cool. But this is where things got real weird. We were all a group together and we're laughing, having a good time. And then you hear an actual scream that was not related to us. And you just hear, oh, yeah. You hear it again. We all kind of look at each other. And then you hear, I got 4 of them on me.
What?
We're like, and I have this on camera as a kid. I would carry the VHS around filming skate videos, or not VHS, but high 8. And I pan the camera at my friends' faces, and it's that green night tone. So you can see our eyes are just white, looking up into the distance, just terrified. And I got 4 of them on me. He says it again. And we're like, we just start walking towards the tree line, and we don't know the exact way out. We came up a certain hill. We're going to go down that same hill in the trees. And as we're walking to the trees, you see this guy coming from where the screams were happening. And he has a mask and a sword in his hand. And he is sprinting at us. And so this was the wildest thing ever. And I have it on camera to this day. And so what happened was he comes running at us, and he's kind of sauntering, but he takes his mask off probably 50 feet from us. And he's like, are you with so-and-so? And we're like, what? And he goes, you guys aren't who I thought you were. But did you see a guy and a girl? And we're like, was that you screaming, guy? And he's like, yeah, man, you guys shouldn't be here. And we're just like, and he has a huge sword. And this girl that I was with, an old friend, was going, she goes, I'll give you $100 right now for your sword. Give me your sword right now for $100. I will take that sword. I don't know if she wanted to protect herself or just so he didn't have it.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't seem threatening.
What kind of mask?
Creepy. It was just like a kind of a balaclava, like a sock mask.
No.
Yeah. And so it was like, what the shit? Excuse me.
You can cuss on this podcast.
Oh, okay. I think. Ass.
We can do whatever we want.
All right, cool. What ended up happening was this guy just cuts us off and just was like, you guys should not be here. I'll take you to the road as fast as you can go. Like, that is not the way. This is how you get to the road super fast. And we're kind of still, and we keep asking him, what is happening? Was that you screaming back
there? Some weird like role playing thing? Like, what's going on?
He's probably a crazy person. I don't know. But he's screaming, and he was just like, my friends were here. They're not here. And I got attacked by 4 of them. And he just kept saying 4 of them. And we're just like, 4 of what? And he wouldn't answer. And he's just like, let's go. So we leave the property, and who knows? He's probably crazy.
It's not the best part of Tacoma either.
No, it's not. It's probably a crazy person, but there is a very all those things are explainable. You can be like, okay, this guy.
Yeah, but it's just really crazy that it's on the night. Don't you guys have a chainsaw too? Couldn't you just be like?
Yeah, this was a different, it was that night actually. Yes. There's no blade on it though.
Yeah.
We're not going to put a blade on it just
because
the noise. So anyway, what we ended up doing was walking with this guy, and I'm filming the whole thing. We're all just like, dude, it's so weird. He takes us down to the bottom of the hill, and this is where it gets weird. If you can picture where a tree line comes out at the bottom of the hill, and that main road in Lakewood going near the Waverly Hills property, it's near fields. Fields come all the way 100, 200 yards out to the road. The tree line does not come right to the road.
Yeah.
So we all walk as a crew through this field. It's the size of a soccer field, a football field, you name it. And we're at the road. Our car is across the street, and he's saying, all right, you guys, don't go back there. And we're like, okay. And as we're talking to each other, filming, like, that was crazy. And nowhere. He was gone. Like, he started walking to that field, but this is a field you could see someone, this is an area you have advantage for as far as you can see until he gets to the tree line. It would have taken him 10 minutes to get there. Gone. And I'm filming in the field trying to see where this guy is, if he sprinted or what. But it was just like that, and there was nowhere to be seen anymore. That was the weirdest part.
So that was a ghost.
For all we know, or he just creeped away, but there's nothing he could have hid behind. There's no parking lot. There's no cars. It was wide open as far as you could see. And so there's no way you could walk from that field without being seen the whole time. Like, you can see people walking away. That was just
and now those buildings are like, what is it? It's like the school district or like something weird. It's just like office buildings. And I just think about that. Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
I've seen another insane asylum, because I don't know if Western State was a sanatorium, but it probably was at some point. I should look into that.
Yeah.
But there was one by my aunt in Boston, and it looked just creepy, just like how Western State looks. And they had turned them into apartments. And I was just thinking that those places are fucking haunted for sure. They have to be. There's no way they're not. Like,
who knows?
Because this shit happened all across America, probably across in other countries. Like, this was like common. You know what I mean? This is obviously one of the worst cases, but like these places were everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
All these buildings were like turned into these sanatoriums. Like,
I mean, who knows? Who knows where the world's going now? If you have another major outbreak and diseases, sanatoriums could be popular again. Just remember, I hate referring all the time to COVID, but that's the only example of a plague we have.
No, that's a perfect example. To draw a parallel, because I think, but it must have been so bad and so deadly so quickly that they couldn't just leave people at home because
people's immune systems are already low.
So they had to go to these specific places. And they also, I've read about it like a long time ago, or like heard other things on like Lore or whatever podcast. And they talk about how they would send people there too, because they kind of didn't know what they were doing. So they just like covered it up, because they're like, oh, if we just like keep the sick people out of everybody's, you know what I mean? They didn't want to.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind.
When would you be going, you think, if you decided to go? Halloween this year?
I think Halloween, it would draw too many crowds. I'd like to go when it's, hey, there's nobody there. You're going to encounter.
Can I go on a Wednesday night Yeah.
I think this is the mecca of the hauntings in the world.
Yeah.
There's not, I'm sure there's things that, are in Europe, and what's the guy's name? Vlad the Impaler. I'm sure that place is incredibly haunted, and places where, battlegrounds where thousands of people died.
Yeah.
Even like, Pennsylvania, the Civil War, Pickett's Charge, Waverly Hills is where
it's a hot spot.
Definitely.
Wow.
Definitely go. Definitely check it out. And,
it'd be cool to go, like, make a trip of it, go there, check out that Scotty Loop or whatever, and then go to Mammoth Caves. Yeah. That'd be so cool. And then I could go see my dad, who has like geodes in his backyard.
Definitely.
In that river. That'd be fun.
Cool. There's a lot of rocks over there.
Yeah.
Some good rocks.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
This was so fun.
We'll have to have another Sunday Scaries with Scott soon.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'll come back anytime. You just let me know.
Cool.
So cool.
Fun. Yeah. And we're going to get some cool ass rocks this year.
Let's do it.
Get some crystals and some agates. We're going to go way up on the hillside.
I sent someone a picture of an agate, and I'm like, do you like agates? And he just sent me a message. He's like, do yourself a favor and spell agates this way so you don't look like an idiot.
Wait, did you do it? E-G-G?
I'm like, oh, agate. Oh, yeah, that's right. Agate. Yeah. Okay, but it was so fun.
All right, well, I'm going to go teach Scott how to spell. Thank you guys for joining us today. Like, subscribe, do all the things. I'll put Scotty's info so you can follow him and all of his cool adventures. He's always doing crazy shit.
Crazy.
Yeah, he's a crazy guy. Remember to stay curious and explore the wild. Love you guys. Bye. Say bye, Scott.
Okay, goodbye. I just assumed because I could hear myself that it was like, oh, this works.
Okay, we're recording.
Okay.
We're on air.
All right. Yeah.
I saw this cute neon sign you can get where it says on air.
On air?
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
Or in session. What else do they say?
I'm busy.
Fuck off.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Okay, ready?